Welcome back to Fremer Language, the podcast where we help you improve your English through long, clear, and natural conversations that focus on real-life communication, practical vocabulary, and useful expressions that you can apply in everyday situations.
In today's episode, we are going to explore 50 common English phrases and idioms. And instead of just explaining their meanings, we will show you how to use them naturally in conversations, so that your English sounds more fluent and more natural.
Many English learners understand basic vocabulary but still feel that their speech sounds simple or unnatural, and this often happens because they are not familiar with common phrases and idioms that native speakers use every day.
That's true, because phrases and idioms add personality and natural flow to your speech, and learning them helps you sound more confident and more connected to real English conversations.
Let's start with a very common phrase, which is "how's it going?" And this is a casual way to ask someone how they are doing in a friendly and relaxed situation.
For example, when you meet a friend, you might say, "Hey, how's it going?" instead of using a more formal greeting. And this makes your conversation feel more natural and comfortable.
Now let's look at an idiom, which is break the ice, and this means to start a conversation in a situation where people may feel shy or uncomfortable.
For example, you might tell a simple joke or ask a friendly question to break the ice when meeting new people at an event or in a meeting.
Another very common phrase is "it depends," which you can use when the answer to a question is not simple and changes based on the situation.
For instance, if someone asks you if you like a certain activity, you might say, "It depends on my mood," which is a natural and flexible response.
Now let's explore the phrase "no problem," which is often used to respond to thanks or to show that something is easy to do.
For example, if someone says, "Thank you for your help," you can reply, "No problem," which sounds friendly and natural.
Another useful idiom is "piece of cake," which means something is very easy to do.
You might say, "The test was a piece of cake," which means the test was very easy for you.
Let's now look at the phrase "I see what you mean," which you can use to show that you understand someone's idea or opinion.
This phrase is very useful in conversations because it shows that you are listening carefully and responding thoughtfully.
Another natural phrase is "that makes sense," which is used when you agree that something is logical or reasonable.
For example, if someone explains something clearly, you can respond with, "That makes sense," to show agreement.
Now let's talk about hang out, which is a very common phrasal verb that means to spend time relaxing with someone.
You might say, "I like to hang out with my friends on weekends," which is a natural way to describe social activities.
Another useful idiom is "under the weather," which means feeling slightly sick or not well.
For example, you could say, "I'm feeling a bit under the weather today," which is a polite and natural way to explain how you feel.
Let's continue with "take your time," which means there is no need to hurry and you can do something at a comfortable pace.
You might say this to someone who is working or deciding something to make them feel relaxed and not pressured.
Another helpful phrase is "give me a hand," which means to ask someone for help.
For example, you could say, "Can you give me a hand with this?" which is a natural way to ask for assistance.
Now let's explore "on the same page," which means to agree or have the same understanding.
You might say, "Let's make sure we're on the same page," especially in work situations when discussing plans.
Before we continue, we would like to remind our listeners to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your support helps us create more detailed and practical English lessons.
Your support allows us to continue helping learners build confidence and speak English more naturally through real conversations.
Another common phrase is "call it a day," which means to stop working or finish something for the day.
For example, you might say, "Let's call it a day," when you decide to stop working and rest.
Now let's look at "get along," which means to have a good relationship with someone.
You could say, "I get along well with my colleagues," which is useful in both personal and professional conversations.
Another useful idiom is "hit the books," which means to start studying seriously.
For example, "I need to hit the books tonight," means you plan to study hard.
Let's continue with run out of time, which means you no longer have enough time to complete something.
You might say, I ran out of time and couldn't finish my work, which is a very common situation.
Another useful phrase is keep in touch, which means to stay in contact with someone.
You can say, let's keep in touch, when saying goodbye to someone you want to stay connected with. Now let's explore make sense of, which means to understand something that is confusing.
For example, I'm trying to make sense of this problem, which shows that you are working to understand something. Another idiom is once in a while, which means something happens sometimes, but not often.
You might say, I go out once in a while, which is a natural way to describe occasional activities.
As we continue, try to listen carefully to how these phrases are used in sentences, because context is the key to understanding and remembering them.
In the next part, we will continue adding more phrases and show you how to use them in longer and more natural conversations.
We will also help you combine these idioms with your daily vocabulary so that your English becomes more fluent and expressive.
And you will begin to notice how these phrases appear naturally in conversations, making it easier for you to understand and use them confidently.
Now that we've introduced several common phrases and idioms, let's continue by using them in longer and more natural sentences, because this helps you understand how they actually appear in real conversations rather than as isolated expressions. When you hear them used in context, it becomes much easier to remember and use them correctly.
Yes, and practicing phrases in full sentences also helps you develop fluency, because your brain begins to recognize patterns and connect ideas more naturally, instead of translating word by word.
For example, instead of just saying it depends, you can say something like it depends on my schedule and how busy I am that day, which gives more detail and sounds more natural. This kind of sentence helps you express uncertainty in a clear and polite way.
That's a great example, because it shows how you can expand a simple phrase into a meaningful response, which is exactly what you need in real-life conversations where people expect more complete answers.
Let's also use the idiom piece of cake in a longer sentence, such as the assignment looked difficult at first, but it turned out to be a piece of cake once I understood the instructions. This kind of sentence shows contrast and makes your speech more expressive.
Using idioms like that helps your English sound more natural and less formal, especially in casual conversations where people often use these expressions to describe their experiences.
Now let's take the phrase, I see what you mean, and place it in a conversation, such as I see what you mean, and I agree that we should try a different approach to solve this problem. This shows both understanding and agreement in a polite way.
This type of sentence is very useful in discussions, especially in work or study situations, because it helps you respond thoughtfully while keeping the conversation positive and respectful.
Another helpful phrase is that makes sense, which you can expand into a sentence like that makes sense, especially when you consider how much time we need to complete the project. This adds reasoning to your agreement.
Adding explanations like this makes your response more meaningful, because it shows that you are actively thinking about the conversation, instead of just giving a short answer.
Now let's use hang out in a longer sentence, such as I usually hang out with my friends on weekends because it helps me relax and forget about work for a while. This shows both action and purpose.
This is a great example because it combines a phrasal verb with a reason, which makes your sentence more complete and natural.
Let's also expand the idiom under the weather into a more detailed sentence, like I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so I think I'll stay home and rest instead of going out. This clearly explains your condition and your decision.
Using idioms in this way makes your speech sound more natural, and it also helps you express ideas in a more interesting and less direct way.
Now let's take the phrase, take your time, and use it in a sentence such as take your time when making your decision, because it's important to think carefully before choosing. This makes your suggestion sound supportive and thoughtful.
This phrase is especially useful when you want to make someone feel comfortable and not pressured, which is important in both personal and professional communication.
Another useful phrase is give me a hand, which you can use in a sentence like can you give me a hand with this task, because I'm having a bit of difficulty finishing it on my own. This clearly explains your need for help.
When you add a reason like that, your request sounds more natural and polite, which makes it easier for others to respond positively.
Let's now use on the same page in a longer sentence, such as before we continue. Let's make sure we're on the same page so that everyone understands the plan clearly. This is very useful in teamwork situations.
This phrase is commonly used in meetings or discussions because it helps ensure that everyone shares the same understanding and avoids confusion.
Before we continue, we would like to remind our listeners to subscribe, like, comment, and share because your support helps us continue creating detailed lessons like this one.
Your engagement allows us to provide more natural conversations and helpful explanations that support your English learning journey.
Now let's expand the phrase "call it a day" into a longer sentence, such as we've completed most of our tasks, so I think it's time to call it a day and continue tomorrow. This sounds natural in work conversations.
Using this phrase helps you end a discussion or activity in a relaxed and friendly way, which is very common in daily communication.
Let's also use get along in a sentence, like I get along well with my colleagues because we communicate clearly and support each other during busy times. This shows both relationship and reason.
This kind of sentence is useful when describing your relationships at work or in your personal life, because it gives a clear and positive impression.
Now let's expand hit the books into a sentence, such as I need to hit the books tonight because I have an important exam tomorrow and I want to be prepared. This shows urgency and purpose.
Using idioms like this makes your speech sound more natural, especially in casual conversations with friends or classmates.
Another useful phrase is run out of time, which you can use in a sentence like I wanted to finish the project today, but I ran out of time because I had too many tasks. This explains a common situation.
This phrase is very practical because it can be used in both casual and professional contexts when explaining delays.
Now let's use keep in touch in a longer sentence, such as it was great meeting you, and I hope we can keep in touch and talk again in the future. This is often used when saying goodbye.
This phrase helps maintain relationships and it is very useful in both personal and professional communication.
Let's also expand make sense of into a sentence like I'm trying to make sense of this information because it seems a bit confusing at first. This expresses effort and difficulty.
This phrase is helpful when you are learning something new or dealing with complex information.
Now let's use once in a while in a sentence, such as I like to go out and relax once in a while when I need a break from my routine. This describes frequency naturally.
This phrase is useful for talking about habits that are not regular but still happen occasionally.
As you continue learning these phrases, try to notice how they appear in conversations and practice using them in your own sentences, because this will help you remember them more effectively.
Yes, and the more you use these phrases, the more natural your English will sound, especially in real-life conversations.
Another helpful idea is to repeat these phrases aloud and use them in different situations, because repetition helps build confidence and fluency.
Practicing regularly will make these expressions feel familiar and easy to use.
You can also try to create your own sentences using these phrases, because this helps you actively use what you have learned instead of just recognizing it.
Creating your own examples makes the learning process more personal and more effective.
At this stage, you are already beginning to understand how these phrases work in context, which is an important step towards speaking naturally.
With continued practice, you will be able to use them more confidently and without hesitation.
In the next part, we will continue expanding these phrases and using them in more natural conversations that feel closer to real-life communication.
We will also introduce a few more useful idioms and show how to combine them smoothly in longer sentences.
Keep focusing on how these phrases connect ideas, because this is what makes English sound natural and fluent.
And continue practicing regularly, because consistency is the key to improvement.
You are making great progress by following this conversation and practicing these expressions step by step. Now let's continue with a situation where you want to explain that something depends on different factors, and you can say it depends on how much time we have and what resources are available for the project.
This phrase is extremely useful because it allows you to give flexible answers without committing to one clear response.
Another example is when you want to stay connected with someone after a meeting or conversation, and you can say it was great talking with you, and I hope we can keep in touch in the future.
This sentence is commonly used in both personal and professional situations, and it helps maintain positive relationships.
Now let's imagine a situation where you need to explain that you did not finish something because of limited time. You might say, I wanted to complete everything today, but I ran out of time because I had too many tasks.
This type of explanation sounds natural and honest, and it is very useful in work or study situations.
As you continue practicing these phrases, you will start to notice that your sentences become smoother and more connected because you are using natural patterns instead of translating word by word.
Yes, and this is one of the most important steps in becoming fluent, because your brain begins to think in English rather than translating from another language.
Another important reminder is that you do not need to use too many idioms at once, because using them naturally and appropriately is more important than using them frequently.
Using a few well-placed phrases can make your English sound much more natural than trying to use too many expressions at the same time.
As we continue, remember to practice these phrases in your daily life, even if you are speaking to yourself or thinking in English, because this helps you build confidence and fluency.
The more you use these expressions regularly, the more natural they will feel, and eventually you will use them without even thinking about it.
We would also like to encourage you again to subscribe and support this podcast, because your support allows us to create more long-form English learning content that focuses on real communication. Sharing this episode with others can also help more learners improve their English.
Your support means a lot to us, and it helps us continue providing valuable lessons that make English learning easier and more enjoyable.
As we move toward the end of this lesson, remember that learning phrases and idioms is one of the best ways to make your English sound natural and fluent in real conversations.
Even simple phrases can make a big difference when they are used correctly and confidently.
We hope this conversation has helped you understand how to use common phrases and idioms in a natural and practical way, because this is an important step toward improving your communication skills.
Try to review these phrases and use them in your own sentences, because real practice is the key to long-term improvement.
As you continue your learning journey, stay consistent and keep practicing, because progress takes time but becomes visible with regular effort and patience.
Your dedication to learning English will bring you closer to your goals, and every small step you take is part of your success.
We truly appreciate the time you spent with us today, and we hope you found this lesson helpful, engaging, and easy to follow as part of your English learning routine.
We encourage you to continue practicing and to stay motivated, because learning English can be both enjoyable and rewarding when you stay consistent.
We look forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we will continue exploring new topics and helping you improve your English in a natural and structured way.
Each lesson is designed to build your confidence step by step, so that you can communicate more effectively in real-life situations.
Until then, keep practicing your English daily and try to use the phrases you learned today whenever you have the opportunity, because real usage is the best way to improve.
And remember that learning a language is a journey that requires patience, consistency, and a positive mindset.
Take care and stay motivated as you continue building your English skills, because your effort and dedication are the most important parts of your progress.
With time and practice, you will become more confident and comfortable using English in any situation.
With time and practice, you will become more confident and comfortable using English in any situation. Thank you once again for learning with us and for being part of the Fremmer language community, where we focus on helping you speak English naturally and confidently.
We hope this lesson gave you useful tools and practical expressions that you can start using immediately in your conversations.
We truly appreciate your time and support, and we look forward to continuing this learning journey together in future lessons.
Goodbye for now, and remember that with regular practice, natural expressions, and a positive attitude, you will be able to speak English more fluently, more confidently, and more naturally every single day.